Hello and welcome to Black Economics TV. Today we have with us Dr. Daniel Moses. He is a property guru and it's a real pleasure to have him with us. He's going to share about his story, how he started and how he helps people get into property with or without money, I've got to say. Welcome, Dr. Daniel.
Oh, thank you so much, Dawn, for having me on your show. I'm very excited and looking forward to having a very, very great conversation.
Okay, great. Well, it's good to see you. So, tell us what it is that you do.
Well, I first of all, when I introduce myself as Dr. Daniel Moses, people first of all usually want to know, are you a medical doctor? Well, I'm not a medical doctor. I am my doctorate is in business and leadership.
Oh, wow.
So you can become a doctor by study and obviously by the route of having a PhD degree, or you can actually have a decorate, doctorate, honorary doctorate installed on you based on the work that you have done and based on the impact that you have created within communities, nations, countries, states, you name it. So I became a doctor due to the fact that in the last 7 years of my entrepreneurial property real estate journey and the works I have done to at least mentoring over 1,000 people into real estate and having to personally work with at least 100 plus personally entrepreneurs who became property entrepreneurs, and in the last 4 years between 2020 till date, I've successfully helped 4 individuals become property millionaires and showing them creative strategies that I use as someone that had nothing to basically build my real estate property portfolio. So that goes to kind of tell you a little bit of what I do there. So I coach, I mentor people. But on a nutshell, what do I do? So I'm the founder of Property Wealth Corporation, a consortium of businesses held under the holding corporation of the Property Wealth Corporation. So we run Property Wealth Estate. Property Wealth Estate is a property development, property management, property advisory, consulting, and as well as acquisitions, services to people who are looking to do all the related activities that I've just mentioned in property. So whether you're looking for a property to get managed, we'll help you offer that solution. Whether you're looking for acquisition, whether you're an international buyer looking to break into the real estate market in the UK, we offer advisory and consulting services, and as well as we develop properties. And over the last since 2019, we've delivered over 30 development property projects, including house of multiple occupation, built and refurbished single-family dwellings, and as well as we have successfully converted flats into commercial buildings into apartments, flats, and as well as commercial buildings into houses of multiple occupation. So we've successfully done that through Property Wealth Estate. Then we have the Property Wealth Education, now rebranded as Property Wealth Business Club, where we have successfully over the last 4 years trained and mentored over 1,000 people. We've worked closely with over 100 property developers and investors. And then we have another arms and multiple other arms of the property wealth within the Property Wealth Corporation and the holding company, where as a consultant of companies, we basically love to call ourselves a one-stop solution for all your property needs. So basically bring all your property problems to me. I am the doctor that solves that problem.
Oh, that's fantastic. Maybe we should come up with a new name for you, Dr. Property Surgeon.
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. Good for you. So let's go back a bit then. Let's talk about your extraordinary beginnings, I'm sure. Tell me about your childhood, your education. What were you doing before you got into property?
Well, what I did last before getting into property was I was a taxi driver.
Oh, okay.
Yes, what I did last, before I got, to where I am now. Yeah, I was a taxi driver, and that was because in 2015 I was bankrupt.
Oh, really?
Yes, I was bankrupt. I lost over £150,000
You're kidding.
in my oil and gas business in Nigeria.
Really?
And I went bankrupt, and I was basically depressed. I was at the verge of suicide, and life meant nothing at that point. And I actually never thought I would be here, even talking about success, not to talk about living. So, and that was where that was the last activity before coming into property. In terms of childhood, I come from a very large family, and my father married 7 wives. I'm the 26th of my late father.
26th child?
Yes, of my late father. And I basically have a very large family, like I mentioned. And growing up as a child, basically my mother raised me, because my mother and my father were no longer together as husband and wife from when I was 10 years old. So my mother raised me. So I also happen to be a mommy's boy. I love my mom to death.
No.
And I'm a mommy's boy. My mother raised me really well. She raised me to always be humble.
Yes.
And she raised me to understand the toughness of life. She raised me in the most perfect way. And again, my father had so many children, like I mentioned. I love my father. I learned a lot from my father. And growing up as a child, yes, I knew my father. I really knew him, because he passed when I was in my 20s. So I knew my father, but I didn't grow up with him, because my mother was no longer married to him. And my mother never remarried, but he comes to the house. I go to his house to see him. We had a very great relationship. He was a great man. He inspired me a lot. He inspired me a lot not to be a polygamist like him. He inspired me a lot. He was part of like the King's or the Queen's Council in my local state. So for
what part of Nigeria is this?
The Benin Kingdom. So
really?
Yes, my father is a chief.
Oh, okay. So you're like a prince then?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yes. Well, not
Prince Daniel Moses.
Not Prince.
Son of a chief. What do they call them?
I can't remember the name it's called, to be honest. It
Okay.
skipped my head now. But I could go and inherit that title and then be a chief as well.
But you have 26 other people to compete with.
Well, that's if they want it. It's very expensive.
Do you know all of your siblings?
Interestingly, when my father died, a lot of his children didn't come to his funeral because some of them, we never knew them. But because I was very close to my dad, I knew, he told me the number of children he has. And some of my brothers were also, I think a few of us, especially the ones below me, I don't think they even know some of their siblings at all. For me, I think I knew some of them, and I also probably don't know a lot of them. Yes, so probably yes. A lot of them I don't know, but I do know a few, handful. But I'm most very close with my immediate half brother. Very close with him, and yeah.
Well, I think also you and your siblings would have to be careful about new people that you meet, because you never know if they might be a half brother, half sister. Can't go fall in love with any and anybody. You got to check out their background first, haven't you?
Interesting. That actually happened in my extended family, because my great grandfather was also a very great polygamist. My great grandfather married over 62 wives and had a lot of children. And at some point,
hold on. When you say married, do you mean they actually had a wedding ceremony, or was he just sleeping with that amount of people with no ceremony?
In Nigeria, in my culture, you have to pay the bride price of that woman. So it doesn't have to be a big wedding. All you just need to do is to pay. I can't remember. I think it's about 20-something naira.
Is he in the Guinness Book of Records? Because that must be the most amount of wives I've ever heard of.
The truth be told, this has been African, and this is exactly what it means being African. And
I'm a bit shocked about this.
Interestingly, when we have this kind of conversations, a lot of people have lost the touch of being an African, and people have actually lost the touch of understanding their roots.
I
So
thought it used to be up to 5 wives, because I know Muslims allow 5.
my great grandfather married 62 wives and they had a lot of children. At some point, some of the children did not know each other and they ended up marrying to each other. And what you do at that time when it happens, because they didn't know, they bring them back home when they discover. And then usually they have to perform some certain sort of sacrifice to appease the gods that this has happened. It was not in their knowing. Some of them, they appease the gods and they have to cut off the marriage. And some of them appease the gods and continues because they didn't know. They already loved their children. It actually happened in my extended family.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is an interesting aspect to your life that I didn't know about.
Exactly.
Teaching us about some of the Nigerian customs. That's fascinating. So, in terms of your siblings, how many do you know really well? Would you say 5, 10?
I probably know a handful, at least 14.
14?
Yeah.
Okay. Are some of them living here or they're all in Nigeria?
I am the only child born of my mother and father.
Okay.
I came here in search of a better life 20 plus years ago.
Oh,
literally left University of Benin and came here.
Did you finish your course there?
Yes, I finished. I graduated from sociology and anthropology from the University of Benin.
Oh, fantastic!
And I shared a very great detail of my my growing up, and as well as how I came to, living in England in this book called The Test. The Test is a book that I wrote 2022. I started writing it, and I released the book last year. July last year, where I actually shared my entrepreneurial life, some of my journey, my struggles, and how I've transitioned from an ordinary individual and heading, well, I like to be humble, transitioning from the ordinary to the extraordinary, because I believe that I am not just building a business, just for the sake of building it. I'm building a business that I want that business to be extraordinary. So, like I said, I like to be humble. I wouldn't say I'm already extraordinary, but I am building a business and I'm on that part of the extraordinary journey.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So you became a student, you studied sociology and anthropology, you finished your degree, and then you decided to come here. When you came here first, what did you do in the UK?
So when I came here, what did I do? I did all sort of linear jobs. A friend who I met became a family relative, and in Nigeria, when you meet a kind of you who speaks the same language, same dialect, automatically you call yourself cousins. So, and that's the tradition in Nigeria. So anyway, the first Benin man that I met, which is my clan that I'm from, became family. So, and only sort of people I knew at that time were the only people that does linear jobs, from cleaning to cleaning toilets to doing all sort of odd jobs. So that's what they did, and fortunately, that is what I did as well.
Yes, yeah.
So the only kind of things I did, again, I did not have legal status to work, to have a job, so I wouldn't be able to get a proper job. So the only way I could get employed is, basically looking for an African restaurant, which there wasn't a lot at that time.
Yes.
And to help them clean their toilets. Looking for African, people who were selling food in Peckham.
Yeah.
And help them do any sort of job that was available, just to get by.
And how long did you do that for?
I did that for quite a while.
Okay.
And then gradually I started meeting more Africans, more Nigerians, and gradually a lot of ideas started coming in based on what I already knew back home. So I quickly moved from that into picking up huge, charity boxes of clothes, in the streets.
Yes.
And I'm sure sometimes you still drive through the streets of England today. You can drive through some certain street and you see some fridges put on the side roads and televisions put on side roads. So I used to pick that up. All right, and then I used to eventually I started buying cars, breaking them into spare parts, load the cars, load the fridges, then ship them over to Nigeria.
Okay, so really you were quite industrious,
yes,
quite
I was.
inventive in that way.
Yes, I was, because I knew that kind of business before actually coming into the UK. Because one of my brothers who lived in Japan That was what he did.
Okay.
Bringing
wow.
those that were, for example, broken fridges and so on and so forth, because these things are very easily fixable in Nigeria.
Okay.
If you take a broken laptop to Nigeria, they'll fix it for you in a second. If you take a broken laptop to Nigeria, till today, people will repair it. So obviously, a lot of things has been rebranded now. You hear about refurbished phones for sale. You hear about refurbished laptops for sale now. 30 years ago, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, nobody knew about refurbished. It was called, in Africa back in those days, called non-selling, non-tested. It was cheap, and fixing them and putting them in your house, and it works. Some of them sometimes didn't really have a problem. It just, I'm sure in England today you'll appreciate. My son the other day, his screen wasn't. He put it on a couple of times. He didn't on. It's like, that is broken. Can you get me a new one? And I said, we got him a new one. A couple of days later, I turn it back when it's working. So imagine taking this kind of things to Africa, to Nigeria. Somebody can put it up and it works. So that's the struggle. That's my background. That's where I've come from, making broken things, into working. From that business, I went into setting up internet cafe in the UK. Remember internet cafe days?
Oh yeah.
Take you back, right?
Yeah.
So at some point, I had 2 internet cafes in London, one in Kent, one in Crystal Palace. And this was where people used to come into the shop to do their printing, use the internet. Yes. And there was no mobile phones that much that those days where you can do so much. Now you can literally do everything from your phone. And I remember talking to a 20-year-old boy the other day, and I said, internet cafe these days, like going to the internet cafe, putting your paperwork, using the internet and so on. It's like, really? I was like, yeah. So
there are still a few of them left in certain areas, especially
if some people don't even know they exist.
Yes, I know. Especially if there's a high amount of immigrant population locally that maybe they don't have a settled place and maybe not having internet at home. But to be honest, most cafes, even hotels, offer their internet for free now.
Yes.
So that meant that the internet cafe's life was short-lived. Certainly on a large scale, but there are still 1 or 2 about. So how did the internet cafe business go? Yes,
it went well. In my book, I shared a great deal of it. So I basically transitioned from one little linear job, linear business, just to make a living. So it was a survivor business. And to be honest, you still find a majority of Black people run survivor business till today. So I basically run the survivor entrepreneurship for that long. So from linear jobs to internet cafes. And I think at some point I just got fed up of living here, doing all sorts of survivor business. Because even when I had the internet cafe, it wasn't a life-changing business.
Yeah.
To be honest, some months would make £2,000-3,000 by the time you pay your rent, your business rates, you're left with about £700 profit. All right. And then obviously you got, your own personal expenses to run. Sometimes you're left with £1,000 profit. Sometimes you're left with £1,500 profit. But it wasn't a life-changing. It was more like a survival business. So at that point in time, I basically got fed up and said, you know what, I've got to go back to Africa to see what else I could do. I sold the business. I took the money back to Nigeria, and then I went into oil and gas in 2012, 2011, there around 2012, 2011. And then I went back to Nigeria. 2012, I went to Nigeria. Honestly, I can't remember the time. Anyway, 2012, I went back to Nigeria, relocated back to Nigeria. And by the way, I was already married. My wife is from here. I had 2 children. My son now just going to uni. My daughter is still in secondary school. And I went back to Nigeria. I said, let me take back the money to Nigeria. Let me do something else. And then I started in oil and gas and logistics.
Did you take the family with you?
No, I left them here.
Okay.
So I basically left my wife here, and I started doing what I needed to do. And what I needed to do was basically go back to Nigeria, go back to Africa, set something, make a living, And the promise to my wife was that, okay, I think I can make it a bit bigger because, you know, people do kind of make larger profit. There is the tax. You know, to be honest, in Africa, there isn't really much tax to pay. So let's go back to Nigeria, let's do business and see what happens. So I took the money back, and I very, very quickly, between 2012 to 2014, the business was on autopilot, was doing well. So I would then go to Nigeria for 3 months and come back to England for 1 month. And that was my life, 2013, 2014. Whilst things seemed to be about to be okay, and things were kind of falling into where it needs to be, I had the biggest blow of my life in 2015. Two of my petroleum tankers, 65,000 liters of petroleum products, two of them run into each other and fell into a valley, into a massive valley. All right. And with the product inside of it exploded and burned to ashes. And I lost over £150,000 due to that crisis, including the products, the trucks,
the drivers.
Thank God nobody died.
Okay.
So nobody died, and I lost a lot of money.
Oh.
And at that point, I actually gave up the journey of being the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And that's what led me to becoming an Uber driver in 2016.
So you came back here.
So I basically just said, you know what, I'm going to stay back in England, or rather return back to England and be here and just go get a normal job and live a normal life. And this was in my probably say this was my, I was almost done in mid-30s, so around about the age of 35-ish.
Okay. So there wasn't insurance that could cover the cost?
Well, at that point in time, we did have an insurance. We did previously had insurance. My insurance had expired. And my manager at that time forgot to renew the insurance. And God. I, wasn't micromanaging. So I, thought my insurance was active. Only to find out it wasn't insurance.
It must have been a shock.
Yeah, there was obviously the diligence issue there, because I didn't keep my eyes on the ball. I should have obviously made sure that my insurance policy was active. But obviously I did leave the that particular manager to deal with this situation. Again, I was up and down, so I thought someone was actually dealing with it. But fortunately, Africa sometimes, some certain people are unaccountable. But again, I learned a very great deal of, micromanaging, making sure my eyes was on the ball, which, it can never happen again, because it cost me almost my life. Yes and no. Yeah, there wasn't insurance. And I think because my insurance was expired.
So when you were at your lowest point then, were there people around who were able to, talk with you, perhaps try and settle you, comfort you, calm you, give you direction in terms of what you should do? Because to get to the stage where you want to take your life, almost sounds like there was no one around to help.
Very interesting question. I completely think that there's a saying, a lot of people say, nobody's coming to save you. I don't know if you've ever heard.
Yeah.
And honestly, I completely think no one is coming to save you, and except God. So the only person that could comfort me at that time was God. And this was through Simon's Bible, prayer, because I'd lost that business, I'd lost that money, I'm going through anxiety, I'm depressed. getting out of bed was a problem. Like literally, I wake up depressed, I sleep depressed, and I was placed on the highest dose of antidepressant tablets.
Really?
Yes. And I'm married, I have 2 children. Obviously, my wife had seen me go through other business challenges before, and she's probably asking herself, what is going on with this man? And I think one of the things I did at that time was go to my wife and ask her, say, I don't want to put you through this because you've been through other similar issues with myself, and I asked for a divorce.
Did you?
Yes. I said, this, I don't think.
You asked for it?
Yes.
So she did not?
No, I just asked her for a divorce, and I said, I need to solve my problem alone, and I just don't want you to go through this with me. Because imagine I've given her all these promises, and I left to Nigeria, and she's hoping my husband is going to break through, and then I'm in a place where life is worthless. So, and she's probably thinking, I'm trying to think for her in my head, that she doesn't understand. So that was one part. So someone who's meant to be my supporter, I'm asking her to leave. Then the only person that I could speak to at that time was, again, my mother. And I'm always speaking to my mother and my other sister, and they're just there also like, listen, you've been doing so many different businesses. Nothing seems to be working, and they're seeing things from different perspectives, being African. When I mean being African, you start to think about spirituality, you start to think about so many different things. And the friends around me hear the story, but in my mind, my interpretation is probably they're laughing at me because I'm reaching out to a few of them. I'm like, oh, I need £200, £100 to get by, and everybody's turning their back against me. And I'm driving Uber, and a lot of people are laughing at me.
Oh. And
I stop interacting with people because everyone is seeing me as a failure.
Oh God.
So, the only place I wasn't judged was the church. The church I can explain, what do you do? An Uber driver. Oh, how's it going? And it was only the church that I was going to.
So this is the church you're going to here?
It's still the church I'm going to today.
Okay.
And to be honest, they're so proud of me today.
Oh.
I had the opportunity of meeting my spiritual father in the Lord the other day, and he looked at me and he said, you know what? You are a true born product of resilience. And God hasn't started with you yet. You think you're successful now? Just wait. Because you understand what resilience means. And obviously, losing £150,000 and going through that suicidal moment of my life was, at that time, one of the most darkest moments of my life. But the good thing was, yes, probably people will think, yeah, people will be around you, people will be there to support you. And genuinely, I don't know how to explain that, because the only thing I can say, it wasn't human beings that got me through it. It was just God that got me through it. And that's why I said, to be honest, no one is going to come and save you except God. God was the only one who saved me, who saved my marriage, and who, looking back now, 18 years later, I'm still married to my wife.
Oh, so she turned you down when you asked for a divorce then? She turned you down?
Well,
she said no, she's not going anywhere?
She just said, listen, you might think you're thinking for me, but it is what it is. Let's ride through it. Oh. So, and I'm so proud of her that she turned me down and said, you know what, let's ride through it.
Yeah.
Because, no disrespect, I've seen I've been married for 18 good years. I've known my wife for 19 years. So I've known her almost half of my life.
Yeah.
I have a very interesting thought about marriage. most people don't understand what it takes to ride through a marriage, because most people think marriage was only for the good times only. So looking at my wife now, I always say to her, like, you know me like anything else. I'm not saying I'm super successful now, but I am successful. But the success I'm looking for, I'm not even near it. Because I want to be successful in everything: money, wealth, marriage, fatherhood, impact. Because, and I think we were having a very interesting conversation right there, and I said, a lot of people are building businesses these days for money alone. And money alone is not enough to be an entrepreneur. You need to be able to build a business that goes beyond money alone. And if you discover the ability to build a business on the foundations of not just money alone, and you're building a business for influence, for impact, for sustainability, a business that really impacts people's life, the money would naturally come in. And part of the reason why over the last 7 years I've been building since 2017 Property Wealth Corporation, it's been built on just not letting people down. Because that's what got me back. People built me up. So now, yes, God forbid, I now have a bunch of people around me. So at that time, I went through that. I didn't have people. So yes, that's exactly how I overcome, those dark moments back in 2016, 15.
Oh, well done. That's an amazing story, I've got to say. I was thinking now we're only going to talk about property, but you've opened up so many other doors. It's actually really fascinating. So you're quite multifaceted, I would say. And you could probably be running marriage counseling courses as well to help people to overcome their challenges.
When I look at my experience, when I look at my life experience, and recently I was having a very interesting conversation with someone, and he said, "You have so much wisdom." And I said, "My wisdom has come from a place of pain."
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have so many wounds I've been healed from now that I can literally help anybody. And that's because I understand pain. It's not just that I saw pain. So there's different types of how people look at this. There are people who see pain. There are people who observe pain. There are people who go through pain and never heal. There are people who go through pain and they heal. And there are people who heal and forget the pain. That's number 5. So when you heal, you've gone through this process, you've healed, and you never forget it. It keeps you humble. All right? And then when you talk from a place of wisdom. So you're not talking from the place of, so you're not talking theoretically. You're talking from a very, very practical perspective, because you know what it is to fail, you know what it is to rise. People get into the world of entrepreneurship for the success only. A lot of people are not getting through the entrepreneurship, knowing how to ride through the pain. And that's why a lot of people will never grow beyond the one-man business. So to be able to navigate and become a successful entrepreneur, it's not just money alone. It is about your wife, your children. It is about it's about your ability to ride through anything. It's your ability to reinvent yourself, remap yourself. And
I think a lot of people don't know that. They may see the glitz and the glamour, and that's what they're aiming for, but they don't see the amount of trouble, challenges, pain.
As someone who's I've had the opportunity of working with at least 1,000 people, and I've closely mentored over 100 people. A lot of people get into entrepreneurship for the money alone, financial freedom, right? And people just want financial freedom. But financial freedom doesn't just come to you without you understanding the book of life. The book of life is a resilience level. You're willing to be to be resilient. You're willing to be tested. Even the Bible says there is no test without a testimony. So who is ready to go for that test? Some people are lucky to never have tests and have testimonials of things. That's why when the test comes, they can't withstand it. So I believe successful people, if you look at all the global, very, permit me to use this word, if you see a lot of white entrepreneurs, not property, white entrepreneurs out there, people like Elon Musk. Elon Musk's business was about to fail in 2021. Today, he's the world's richest man. Tesla was basically folding up in a month's time before he successfully was able to launch SpaceX rocket that went up to the skies. Richard Branson, once upon a time was in jail,
Really?
and because of a record, he was in the record business. But today he's one of an entrepreneurial icons.
Yeah.
A lot of, especially people of color, we are getting into entrepreneurship, not understanding the journey, because we want the instant success, and that robbed me for a long time. I'm just close to my mid-40s, so I understand what I'm talking about. The challenges of business is not spoken enough. So people just want to get in and make quick profit, and he's robbing a lot of people.
It's like you're going into something blind.
Yeah, and that's why you see people, what do you do for a living? I do many things. You ask people, what do you do? I have multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
And then the next day you ask them, how's that going? Oh yeah, still, I don't know. Because you're doing so many things. So there is no direction, and this is a huge challenge. And that's why you see there isn't a lot of us black entrepreneurs, out there. I want to see my vision. Yes, there are a lot of, obviously, there's a few black successful entrepreneurs coming up now, but there's enough of us, because a lot of us are entering into business. The black community and African Caribbean, communities were the most entrepreneurial people. How come there's not much of us that can comfortably, say we're successful 7, 8, 10 figure business owners? Because of how we're getting into business. We're only getting into business because of the money. So we don't have the longevity to build. And to build a real successful business, it takes a minimum of 5 to 10 years. For my doctorate, it was a honorarium decorate. So
I see.
it was a honorarium bestowed on me from the Cornerstone University based on the impact I have had within the community.
Fantastic. Oh, brilliant. Good for you. When did you actually decide to get into property then? It was during one of your low points while you were an Uber driver?
Yes.
I presume?
Again, like I said, God was the only backbone when everything went tough. And me getting into property was divine, because I actually shared it in my 2 books. I was driving.
So this was your first book that you shared?
So the first one was How to Get Into Property with Little or No Money. I wrote this book because that was where I was at the point of my life. And I had successfully done this successfully. So rent to rent. So I wrote a book called Rent to Rent Made Easy, How to Get Into Property with Little or No Money, which started in 2017. So I was at the lowest point of my life, and I was still driving as an Uber back in 2016. So I was driving back from Stansted Airport after doing a drop-off, and I fell asleep on the wheels driving. And I pulled into a petrol station to have a nap. And I had a dream that I was in property conferences.
Really?
And I woke up from that sleep, or agreed to nap.
And made it happen.
And then I went into Facebook. And I was just basically playing with my Facebook account, seeing what was happening there. And somebody pops up talking about property. And I said, no, this cannot be coincident. And I spent the last £70 I had on my Vanquish credit card. And I paid for that event £70. And I went to the property seminar.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. It's stunning. You followed it through.
Absolutely.
So sometimes, people do go on courses and then they don't follow through.
Yes, I followed it through because I think one of the biggest gifts God has given to me personally, like I said, I have been baited through pain and challenges. God gave me the ability to discern that, for where I'm going to, I had to go through all these different things. And I've been through a lot already, and because of that, I have discernment. I'm able to discern situations, So I followed through, and it's officially we just turned 7 years old, and it's been an 8 years journey. Because I started learning about property and I started going to property events back in 2016.
So now you do those property events for other people to come and learn from you, huh?
Yes, I currently run one of the fastest growing property private members community, which we call Property Wealth and Business Club. And just in 4 years alone, we've raised a private investor capital of at least £2 million from people I met from social media to build a collaborative property portfolio in excess of over £14 million.
Okay.
So that's inclusive of what I own, what my members own, collaboratively since the birth of Property Wealth Education since 2020, including my property portfolio. We've successfully completed over 30 property development projects.
Okay, and is that in the UK?
This is in London.
Okay, and you're looking to grow internationally as well,
yes,
I understand.
Yes, so the Property Wealth and Business Club now we have a few global members. So we're building a club, a community where we want to get to 1,000 people. All right, it's a yearly membership. So before now, Property Wealth Education offered courses and trainings, and we sold courses. And last year, I wanted to do something different from what other people that I met was doing. So property courses are not cheap. They're very expensive. And sometimes the upsells never ends. So you go to a property seminar, you pay £60. From £60, you pay £1,000. From £1,000, you're then told about an academy. The academy is then £10,000. Then for the 1 year academy, they say we're going to give you everything. And then after that, they say you should be successful. And then when you're not getting success, they then upsell you to an inner circle. And then from the inner circle to the executive circle, it never ends. So instead of actually getting property done,
and no properties come with that.
And sometimes properties
so
are not coming. Nothing is coming. It's just talk.
Wow.
And I have seen people who have ended up spending £100,000 on property courses and never achieving anything.
What?
And when I started, I actually did the same. So I sold my courses because I went through the same journey. So I sold initial courses that I used to have for £500, from £500 to £700. So when people wanted mentorship, when people naturally, so I sold courses, programs, mentorship programs as well. And, when people wanted my mentorship, I also charged, similar to what I was charging in the industry as well. So I run the mentorship program as well. And people came for a 1 day event and a 3 day event and a mentorship program, and it ended. And I was looking, after the 1 year, people didn't actually get the results because you can't learn property in 1 year. You can't learn how to do business. And I started to really research. I'm like, no, the truth be told, you need a minimum of 5 years. You have to have a minimum of 5 years having, to understand a methodology, a blueprint taking you from where you are to where you want to go. You're not going to get into property and get it right in year 1, and year 2 and year 3. No, because every single project or every single capital raise, every single strategy, it takes time to implement. So this year we rebranded into a club, more affordable on a yearly subscription membership, where you get organic support. It's affordable. Obviously, I have a pre-qualification process, because I then also created that it's not for everyone. All right, and you have to have a criteria. You have to have the will. So when we talk about a community that's raised over £2 million, that's the power of the will to be resilient, right? When I said we've done over 30 projects since 2019, we're currently in 2024, that is not ordinary work. That is resilient, especially as a person of color. We face a lot of issues, and that's the truth, you know. And the truth being that, as a black person, you know, first of all, another black man takes him a lot to trust me. As a black man, another black man, for him to believe in what I'm selling, I have to convince him the extra mile. So we face all these different things. So this year, around about July, I started to restructure into a private members club, and the private members club has been doing amazing work since we restructured, because now it's affordable. That's number one. There is no upsell to any inner club that's going to cost you 20 or 30,000 pounds. It's a yearly membership. You come, you join. The first year it works for you, you renew up to 3 times, and you become a lifetime membership. So the first 3 years you pay, and then on the year number 3 to 4 to 5, you just pay and you become a lifetime member. And in that community, you have every single person you need to do real property business, whether that being a solicitor, accountants, brokers, builders, fund angel financer, basically anything that you need, you have, you know, have within the network. And when I started creating, I created that. So yes, I'm doing exactly what I did to get in. And I think since I got into property now over 7 years, when I got in, I didn't used to see a lot of black people who were buoyant enough to speak about what they were doing in property. And I'm so glad that looking at what's been happening in the background now, I think if you probably check out the first 20 black people who are, you know, very outspoken in the space, I think my name will come in, you know, as the top 10.
But as you rightly said, there's not enough people in that space. So if someone wanted to work with you, join your club, what's the criteria?
The criteria of joining my club is that I know I wrote a book about starting with little or no money.
Yes.
All right. And a lot of people seem to just read that and get interested.
Yeah.
Yes, I wrote this book a couple of years ago, but now I do say to people, because not a lot of people knows what it takes to understand the power of leverage.
Yeah.
I understand leverage really well because I've actually been studying leverage for a while now.
Yeah.
So I know how to leverage time, people's time.
Yeah.
I know how to leverage people's money.
Yeah.
I know how to leverage people's knowledge. And I also know how to leverage many other things around people, around, you know, business. So, and the truth be told, not a lot of people will understand what it takes to leverage and get into property with little or no money. So imagine right now, if you have a credit card balance, you have a credit card with a zero balance.
5,000.
You have, you have a credit card with a £10,000 limit and £10,000 looking at you.
Yeah.
Right? If I tell you that you can take that credit card and apply for a second one to make it 2 credit cards that's giving you 20,000, and you can take that £20,000 credit card to go and buy a house, would you do it? The first thing you're going to ask me is how. I never heard people that buy property with a credit card.
Okay.
So first, I need to get into your head to teach you how to do that. That's number one. Okay. That's as simple as that. So now, what I do in order for people to get in is first to look at what is your mindset. That's number one. So criteria is, what is your mindset? What is your thinking? What is the IQ? Let's have a conversation. All right. And that's number one. Number two is that you have to be at least someone earning minimum of £50,000. So you could be earning that £50,000 from a job. That's one. Number two, you could have £50,000 at least equity in your asset. Number three, you could have someone that you know that has £50,000. All right. So even if it's not yours, but know someone that is have £50,000 equity, £50,000 cash, which is easy. Anybody can know anybody has £50,000 equity. And then finally, be prepared to commit a minimum of £3,000 yearly membership. So if you are able to answer all these questions, and then, you know, like I said, the most important one is the mindset. It's the mindset that's the killer. So we need to know that you're that person in that mindset. So once you've gone through all this process, it's a simple form that you fill in and you answer all these different questions. And then we will then schedule an interview with you to discuss what you basically put in on your application. And then if you qualify after the interview, then we send you a link to pay your annual membership of £3,000 to become a member of the club. Now, once you're in the club, it's beyond property. it's helping you transform from the ordinary to the extraordinary. So we help you become a leader. We help you become an influential person. You know, when I started business a couple of years ago, I had no contact. I'm just about to release a book in 2025 that I have now co-authored with 5 past presidents of, you know, various countries. In the last 2 years, I've been working hard only just to have influential people in my life. Why do I need influential people in my life? Because I'm trying to create my own financial backbone. I'm trying to create my own economy. I'm trying to create my own, you know, money. What does that mean? A lot of influential people could have £1 million, £500,000, £2 million. Sometimes they're not using it. So I can deploy those funds into projects that can give them a return on investment. And being part of my club, you can have access to that money as well.
And a bigger return on investment.
And bigger return on investment. One of our students, or rather one of our members, Maxine, at the age of 60, joined our club. All right. And within the club, in 2 years, she raised £250,000 of money that she did not have access to. Today, she's sitting on 3 properties, and she's generating over on those 3 properties that she now owns, that she bought with none of our own money. She's generating very significant amounts of income. All right, and she no longer works. She's 63 now. She no longer has a job. She's earning enough money from those properties. We also have someone else, Anthony Howell. Anthony Howell built currently a property portfolio of over 3.5 million, generating significant return on his rental income and cash flow, and have significant equity on those 3.5 million pounds worth of asset. And again, he raised over £500,000 through the network. So and I can go on and mention so many people's names. You know, so, and this is when we talk about creating that wealth economy around us. So our goal is to have a minimum of 1,000 people that at some point in time, you know, each of us can even come together to bring in minimum of £100,000. So do the numbers yourself. If I have 1,000 people that can bring in £100,000, and we can actually start we're currently in the Landmark Hotel having this interview. You know, what if we can now bring that money together to buy hotels? What if we can buy commercial buildings where Tesco's are our tenants, Cooperative, Sainsbury's is our tenants? And imagine as well that some of the people in the community could also be builders themselves, that we don't have to get a builder to come outside to do the property development or refurbishment or building works, that the members is actually delivering projects for the members. So we're able to almost build our own economy. So the vision of the Property Wealth and Business Club is to basically become an economy of its own.
And you have a mixed group of people as members, I would imagine. So the Black, White, Asian.
Yes. At the moment, majority of our members are Blacks, and I'm very excited about that. We have Asian, White, but majority of our members are Black. Really super excited that we had the wealth statistics in the UK, because the wealth statistics in the UK clearly stated that Blacks are actually the poorest, in that future. Black people, we don't create enough wealth, and we don't transfer enough wealth. So if I can help 1,000 people of my members, during a 5 to 10 year, mark to it, and we can look back 10 years from now and build a community that we can look back and say, is it £100 million? Is it 200? Is it 300? Is it $1 billion? We never know where this can go. So, and I'm so excited to do this.
But you could almost become your own estate agents as well, because people who are selling properties can put it to the group, and people within the group can arrange deals to buy the property.
We already have an estate agent in the group. So, for example, like I mentioned, I run multiple entities, and I love to call myself the one-stop supermarket for property. But that's not ultimately where I'm going with this. So the goal is to collaboratively do a lot of stuff. So a lot of people actually giving me properties to sell for them. I am selling. A lot of people are giving me property briefs to do. But it's not about me, right? It's about me also passing that knowledge to those who wants to then go and develop it. So people will bring because I have quite a very interesting reach currently on social platforms. So naturally people bring those kind of briefs to me, but that's what I do. So what I do, I'm passing the same knowledge of my daily experience in multiple property projects, multiple property transactions, and I'm literally telling my members word for word what I do, not just what I do. One of our founding, one of our ambassadors owns over 400 properties, and he is also a mentor and an ambassador. Though he's white, but again, he's been in property for over 40 years. To get to over 400 properties, it's been there for a while. So, and that's the ambition. The ambition is either we can do things collaboratively or people can do things individually. But basically demystifying information, making it as simple as possible, so that people can now take this knowledge and then either construct theirs or collaboratively work together. So whatever the case might be, you can either decide to work collaboratively or you can also decide to work independently.
Okay, so I know that some of the property deals around are one which you mentioned earlier on, rent to rent. There's also lease options, service accommodations. Now, do you cover all of those and encourage your members to take part in those?
Within our Property Wealth and Business Club, we are the one-stop shop for all property education.
Okay. All methods of buying and selling properties.
All methods. The one I haven't done, I have a mentor who trains
in that area.
Who will train in that area.
And you having solicitors also within that space also means that
exactly.
you know where to go for people who are used to those kind of deals.
Exactly. So basically, like I said, these are all very expensive programs that people would have gone to buy as well, right? And just I've seen some gurus sell just a rent-to-rent course for £3,000. Then they buy refurbished finance course for another £3,000. For example, a lease option course for £3,000. That's just the course. Then if you then want the mentorship, because it involves times and so on and so forth, that's £10,000 of worth of mentorship. So imagine rent-to-rent mentorship, £3,000 for the course, and then another £10,000 for the mentorship. That's £13,000. Times that by 3. Buy refurbished finance course plus the mentorship, that's another £13,000. So again, like I said, people can easily be blowing £100,000 just to learn all of these things without real support. So that economy would then be okay. From the membership fee, we can now actually invest into real estate and using that money and distributing it back to our members. So that means our members don't want to go.
Exactly.
All right. And then when we then get into becoming a lifetime membership, so what does that lifetime membership allow you to buy into this club that then obviously goes to owning asset? So these are all various options that we actually, exercising.
Well,
because
exciting.
For me, it's all about an economy. It's about legacy.
Yeah.
It's about collaboratively, let's go all together rather than me alone. And part of the reason why I moved away from the educational brand of selling courses to actually creating a membership platform where people can actually own a token of the actual. So there's a lot of things that we've been discussing with some of our founding ambassadors, but for now we've kept it quite very simple because we don't want to complicate anything yet. So at the moment it's pretty simple, and what is simple about it is you come join, let's give you the knowledge.
Yeah, so you can build your own portfolio.
So let's give you the knowledge. Instead of selling your course for now, just pay £3,000, have access to all the knowledge. All right, let's see what happens as we grow.
Okay, so the options at the moment are that you're offering the knowledge, offering the mentorship, but you're also offering opportunities where people can raise private finance within the group as well.
Yes. So
okay. And that is
actually
powerful in
getting
itself.
people to pull together.
Yeah.
Well, obviously that will be subject to individual credibility. So we completely disclaim from that. So, but we do encourage it. So if you're part of my club, I can tell you, oh, actually, Maxine needs some money. You've got 50. Why don't you give Maxine the money? But the club has nothing to do with it. It's based on both of you, both of your credibility.
But being able to offer that connection is important.
However, once in a while, we do have members that will say, oh, Daniel, I've got to give Maxine £100,000. Can you sign a guarantor for Maxine? So I would usually say, if you want me to sign a guarantor for Maxine, I'd rather, us work together. So through me, you can give the money to Maxine. Instead of giving the money directly to Maxine, you're giving the money to Daniel.
Yeah.
Because I know my capabilities, all right, and then I can take the risk on your money. So if anything happens, I am solely liable for your money because I've got a few assets. The worst that can happen is I can flip and sell an asset, and I can make sure that you don't lose your capital. Okay. And I can deal with Maxine, for example, on a.
Well, that in itself is a very powerful service.
Yes, it is, and that's why I've raised $500,000 this year for some of my members.
Oh wow!
Although there's also been a very ugly incident that did happen, but I was able to withstand it.
Yeah.
Because you will have bad experience.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is.
And I think also the fact that people are offering properties to the group, because you could have a bank of say 10 properties and you could say, look, there's some great deals on this, and they can buy it through you, and that kind of is quite a good service as well.
Yeah, I mean, we offer other services like the property portfolio service, where we have members who wants to buy assets, wants to do reform, but they don't want to get involved in that. They just want the project done, because you will always have people who want to individualize things. You also have people who want to earn passively. You also have people who want to earn actively. So regardless of what you're looking to do, if you want to individualize passively, we offer a service that allows you to employ one of our services within the property wealth organization passively to invest in real estate. So we will basically be employed as a consultant and do over 90% of the work for you.
Okay.
And we also teach people the same model. So they too can take that blueprint and sell that services to others.
I think it sounds amazing. Well done. Congratulations. So I reckon in about 5 years, you probably will have doubled your target, maybe 2,000 members.
Yes, indeed. First of all, we've been ongoing now for 7 years. We've been learning about ourselves. 7 years we've been learning. But we've also, in 7 years, we've achieved a lot in a very difficult market. In a very difficult market where it's all built based on trust and credibility. And having raised over £2 million in private investor capital, I think one of my biggest proudest moments is that I've paid 75% of that money back. And if you basically Google me on social media or Google me online, there is no negativity and there is no negative report. And I was speaking to an individual the other day and he said, can you tell me why there is no negative press on you?
They asked you that?
And he said,
That's so cheeky.
He said, how come no one has ever said anything negative about you?
Oh, wow.
I said, because, well, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I think I understood pain. And I think one thing about pain is if you've broken your leg twice and you fix your leg again, when it happened the third time, you just know how to okay, you go. Or like the first time if you broke your leg, when is this going to go? And you're going back to play football. You broke your leg again. They fixed it. You broke the tendon. It's going to be about a month or two. You'll be back in the game. So I said that's the reason why. Probably in the last 7 years, I basically learned from this, to every challenges that I have. Or I have had a situation where once upon a time, an investor gave us £100,000, and the project overran. And the time the £100,000 was due to be paid back was known to me a month before. I started talking with the investor straight away, and I said I needed 6 months extra. I said I needed 6 months extra, but I said, if this is the situation, actually give me a year. So at the end of the day, I will be able to use that money twice in 2 years. give them their return on investment in 2 years, but it allows me to be in a comfortable position. So they know, first, their reward is in their bank account, or two, the money is working for me for 2 years, and which allows me to mitigate and leverage time to bounce back from that project to successfully return that capital. So these are all skills that you have to master. So and you can only
I would imagine
do that
it's quite nerve-wracking too sometimes, because you're dealing with a lot of money from different sources, and
if
building projects don't always work to time.
So when people talk about nerve-wracking is part of the process. Stress is part of what it takes to be an entrepreneur. So if you're thinking, oh, you're going to be stressed doing business, don't do business.
I hear you. Well, this is why most people get a job and just,
this is the truth. I said it earlier. People are being sold they get rich quick of financial freedom, and people are getting into entrepreneurship because of that.
Yeah.
But if you think business is stressful, don't do it.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Business is not meant to be easy, because business is a war. Yes. You heard me right.
I heard you. Yeah.
Business is war.
Okay.
And you have to fight the war to win.
Okay, sir. That's amazing. Well, I think we've covered everything.
Thank you so much for having me. And I hope your audience will enjoy the conversation.
Well, I hope they will, and I hope they'll contact you for further information, or maybe even join your club.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
Well done with what you're doing.
Thank you.
It's absolutely amazing. So, by the way, what do you do for downtime? Do you have any hobbies?
In the summer months in England, I do go golf range and play golf.
Oh, okay.
And when I have the opportunity, I also go to the golf course and I play. And in my downtime, I love to stay in the dark.
Really?
Yeah, I just turn off all the lights and I stay in the dark.
Oh.
I see clearly.
Okay. That's good. It's like meditation time, praying time. Oh, okay. Good for you. Thank you very much, Dr. Moses. Take care. Because